Hey everyone, welcome to Shapr3D. So today we're going to be working on an extremely rough draft of a hair trimmer. This is by request of a user on our group, and just keep in mind this project, while it still looks pretty good, it is an extreme rough draft, because if you want to build up a product from start to finish, it's going to take way longer. Alright, so in the beginning we're going to start off by making a circle. It's going to be 100 millimeters. Just putting it into perspective of how it might be in real life. Not exact sizing, like I don't have my micrometers with me or calipers, but let's go ahead and just draw a spline across here, and we're gonna make a simple shape, kind of like a handheld device sort of thing. And splines are excellent for this, but the negative about splines is that you don't get the exact dimensions with them, so it's kind of like a clay modeling kind of tool. But anyways, now we can just mirror it over so we have both sides. And don't forget to close your sketches, because if you don't close your sketches, it's kind of hard to get back to them. And then I like to draw a center line just so I can have something to reference if I ever need to either mirror or move over, stuff like that. Now we basically revolve this to get a certain shape, and we only need 180 degrees negative in this case, because we want just the top part, and then we're gonna smooth over that edge. And you could have made this differently, but like I said, this is a rough draft to show you some processes of how to accomplish certain goals in your projects. So once we have that figured out, we can choose whatever size we want, because obviously it always looks different to other people. So choose whatever you think looks great. And now that we have that, we can move on to the bottom. And at this point we can add on some grips by simply slicing away parts of the body. So let's draw a sketch there and just go ahead and extrude that up so that we can have a grippy, like the silicone sides that you can hold on to while you're trimming. So, and then we could put this in the middle, but then we'd have to do more work, so I like to move it away and then extrude over, and then we don't need the sketch, we can delete that. And another thing you can do is, if you split the body as we do here, you basically save yourself some work by not having to repeat that slice on the other side. And then we mirror it over so we have both sides identical. And the thing is, I don't like working with half of the part, just because I like to see visually what I'm working on, so that's why I do that. But anyways, let's go ahead and work on the sharp blades part. And again, it's not gonna be perfect, it's a rough draft, but we'll just show you how to do some of the basic process. So we had that rectangle we extruded, we make it smaller, and we duplicate that as a new body so that we have two pieces, right? Because there's like a dual blade thing that slices the hair. And after that, we can kind of round off the corners, which usually I would save till later, but again, this is a rough draft. We're just kind of putting things together into perspective before we design our actual product. And I'm gonna add some screws here just for reference, because again, this is not the final product, but just so you can see kind of an application of that to hold it in place, and visually it helps as well. So now that we have that, we can move that circle slightly away by selecting the sketch in the menu, and we'll put the like a Phillips thing on there. So, and that's basically just like a 4-pronged star. And obviously it's a little bit more complex than this, but this is just again for visual, so you can kind of see what you're working on. And go ahead and just use the pattern tool, going around the circle. You could have also just used the move tool, but sometimes it's easier just to do the pattern. And then we just go ahead and slice that down by extruding it. Select all the pieces, just pull the arrow down, and whatever looks good in this case. And if you're making an actual Phillips screw, this is going to be slightly different, like I said, because you have to kind of angle that. But anyways, let's go ahead and mirror that over using the center line there, and we have those screws, and we can just union that to the body so it doesn't move around. And I also like to have that edge there on the, as you can see, there's kind of no edge, but now we unioned it, now it has a solid edge, so I like that part. So anyways, let's go ahead and draw the blade, and we're going to use the pattern tool again. but we have to make our first one. And I've already done the calculations, but if you just look at the line and you count how many fit into that line, then you can get a good piece for that. So if you're using the linear pattern tool, don't forget it kind of adds an extra one. If you do the full size 140, you're gonna have one over the edge, since it's just copy that over. But now we select all of them after we have it down, and we slice them through all the way. And then we go to the side and we choose that flat pattern, not pattern, but the flat side, and we sketch on that as a plane. And let's figure out the size here. Just if you shake it, it goes to a straight line instead of an arc, so that's good. And then we can just move the line up there to match it, and then same thing here, we can make another line. I forgot to lock it in. Let's lock it in place first, and then we can adjust the size. And then just again, same thing, draw the line down, and we're gonna slice that off. But first we need to make that famous circle of mine as a cutting tool that I use all the time, and just slice right on through. So now we have kind of a blade thing here. And again, this is just a visual rough draft, so don't judge too harshly. But let's go ahead and go back to the splines, because we need to have curved edges. And the cool thing about splines is that they're adjustable, so you can move them around if you don't like something. And in this case, we're just going to simply extrude that, and then we're going to go ahead and replace the face to match the other side. And we can use the rounded edge here too, but we're gonna have to slice down later. Let's go ahead and replace the face on this side as well. And then once we have those in place, we're gonna go ahead and try to match the rear by splitting the body on those edges, so that we can work with them easier, because once the body is split, it's much easier to adjust rather than a connected piece. So just keep that in mind, that when you have a whole bunch of things connected, the math kind of makes it harder. Here though, I will show you another method. So basically we had that circle that we drew, we move it up, and we can project those lines up onto that sketch, because we are using that sketch as a plane. And then we can basically make a body out of it, and then extrude it and use that as a cutting plane as well, like if your body doesn't have enough angles to cut with. So just keep that in mind. And then a way to do that is, once we extrude these things, we're going to use another circle to basically cut away the excess from the body. So if we go ahead and move that down, and we sketch on that plane right above it, we can just use that as another cutting tool. Like seriously, that's why I said famous circle. I use this little trick all the time. We just slice down, delete that excess that the circle didn't fit in, then we move it back up, and we have a body that matches the top perfectly. So that's just really easy, simple method that I use all the time. And now we go ahead and union those pieces, because we want to do some finishing touches like slicing away those bottoms. And so again, don't union stuff if you're not ready for it, because splitting it later is harder. And then we're going to start filleting here, which is also extremely hard to undo, so keep that in mind. Leave this as a final step. But in this case, again, rough draft. So let's go ahead and add our cable in and extrude that in there as a new body, because we're not ready to connect it yet. But we're going to go ahead and move that sketch by selecting it from the folder again, and we want a cone shape. So what we need to do is scale it down. So we use the scale tool, and about 60% should be good. Yeah, there we go. And we're going to have that cone. And once we have that, we loft it, and then simply connect the two pieces so they're as one. And then we can fillet that edge just to make it smoother. And now we can move on to the next step. And I have this terrible tendency to use sketches as planes, so we're just gonna go ahead and sketch a plane for ourselves, and we're gonna rotate it 90 degrees, and we're gonna use that as our base of operations to make a spline for the cable. So we're gonna go ahead and select that edge to work on, and we're gonna draw our spline, just a little short one in this case because we're doing the visual. And what we can do now is just adjust. So I don't think that's nice. That's probably too long. That needs to be way shorter. but we can go ahead and adjust it, so that's not a big problem. We select our sketch and we move it over to where we want it to be, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna go ahead and select that circle and sweep it across the line here to make our wire. So now that we have that done, we can go ahead and add some finishing touches, which is basically, again, using splines because we have a weird shape. And you could technically just draw in half and then mirrored it, but I like that it's like a connected edge there, so it's a loop instead of a solid like a rectangular thing. And then we could just offset it to have two of them. And as using the same plane, we can draw a little shape. In this case, we can do a triangle. I think would be best, like to use it as a cutting tool. And we're gonna try and rotate it onto that spline so that we can have it kind of aligned as much as possible. And we're gonna repeat the same process for the second one. And you're gonna notice that I made 4 in this video, but you only need to make the 2 so that you can use them. But we're gonna go ahead and rotate that by 90 degrees to have it aligned correctly into the body so that we can slice away, because we're gonna go ahead and sweep this with the sweep tool. And there's multiple ways of doing this, but one way is to either just sweep it across the splines, or you can project those splines onto the body, then lower the triangle and sweep through and subtract. So I mean, either way you could have done to get this figured out. But as you can see, when you project the line, it kind of curved over the edge there, so it wasn't a perfect sweep and it made that excess body. And you can prevent that by just sweeping and then lowering the body and subtracting. But the negative part of that is that you wouldn't have that curve, it would be a straight line. So that's why I projected it, just so you know. All right, now moving on, we're just gonna do some finishing touches after hiding the sketches, which is by basically deleting those little pieces there and adding finishing touches, like let's say a button, a power button. So in this case, we can just go to that top layer and sketch an oval. In this case, we're gonna subtract it down, so we delete the body there. And then we're gonna use that specific plane there to sketch on top of it. And I'm just gonna offset it because this actually looks like a nice shape for a button anyways. And we can extrude that out. And again, if you're making the product, I would make every body separate, because once it's connected, it's harder to split it. But in this case, we just made it up as one body. So now we're gonna draw a little power logo, and we accomplished that by just drawing a sketch of a circle and adding a few lines. So I'm pretty sure all of you have seen the power button on like most remotes, whatever. So this is basically that. And I mean, it's pretty simple to make, shouldn't be too hard. And we could just offset that to make a tolerance piece so that when we extrude, it looks really good. All right, now that we have that, we're gonna go ahead and fillet some of these edges. And to do that, we don't have to select all of them technically, but the more you select, the more accurate it might be sometimes, because not all bodies automatically sweep the fillet across everything. So just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and hide all the sketches now. We don't need them. We're basically done with this. Let me show you the finished model. So I did change a few colors and cut that out of the video. But as you can see, this is a very basic prototype, rough draft. But I hope you guys learned a few steps along the way. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you liked it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Here at Shapr3D, our goal is to inspire and empower you to create your own amazing projects. Please support our work so that we can keep doing it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to see more.